My guest today is a comedian friend of mine. I met several years ago when I was running the show for a little bit down in downtown Toledo. He came on and headlined the show for us one time. But we initially talk about nerd out about guns. We talk a lot about so different social issues, politics, get into his comedy albums. Just meeting people, different shows he's at, why he does comedy, goals. We talk a lot about his day job. So it's a really neat episode. Um, please check out the other show on the Nerdball Network, Three Different Dads. It gets released every Wednesday morning. We've had some really good episodes. So please check that out. If you want to reach up this podcast, the Nerdball Podcast at gmail.com. I'm on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. So please reach out if you want to be on a show. Reach out to any of those things. I'm always looking for more guests. My guest Thursday I'll give a little teaser. She's an Olympic gold medalist, so be on the lookout for that. I'm excited for both these episodes this week. I have a full slate already booked for February. So that's awesome to look forward to. I think they're all in studio also. So that's great. Again, the studio space, can't thank Fort Mex CrossFit enough for allowing me to be in their studio space. So please reach out to them, fortmexcrossfit.com. Without further ado, here's my guest.
This is Robert Jenkins, and this is the Nerdball Podcast.
This is the Nerdball Podcast with Lorenzo Melcher.
Awesome. Thanks, Robert, for coming on the podcast today.
Yeah, no problem, man. Thanks for having me.
We met when I used to do comedy. I don't do it anymore. But I had, I think maybe even the first time we met was maybe when I had you out to Toledo when we were doing a show out
At
there.
that bar, yeah.
Yeah.
That's the first time we met in person, yeah.
Yes, yeah. But you've been doing comedy for a while now, right?
Yeah, I think it's been 10 years, July 2012, so going on 11 years. I mean, you count COVID, whether or not, but on the calendar,
yeah,
10 years.
I think that's the easiest way to do it. There's always like when you've been like 10 years from now, you're like, well, I've been doing it for 19 years or whatever. And you're like, well, that 1 year, I don't know. It's just what you
Yeah,
think.
right.
Well, the first thing I always ask people, and some people like you, like, hey, what do you talk about? What is your podcast? And I'm hesitant to tell them this first question because this is the question I ask everyone is what is something you've been nerding out about lately? Something you're really into, if it's movies, books, TVs, cooking, you're taking these classes for something. If it's new, you've been doing it your whole life. The only thing is it can't be about your job. So it just has to be basically something that gets you away from your job.
Okay. Guns.
Yeah.
You can start there, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's
what
something
is
I got into.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, that's something I got into pretty heavy, starting with COVID actually. Well, I guess this kind of relates to comedy in a weird roundabout way.
Yeah.
I want to say about 2013, I got into an incident at a show. I was out in the middle of nowhere, Dust Bucket, Michigan, and these guys had something to say, and I carried a switchblade at the time. Well, not a switchblade, one of those easy open, flick open kind of knives.
Yeah.
And that was all I had. And I was like, oh, I should probably do something about that. So I went and got my permit. And, I was one of those people when I first got my permit to carry, I would, go to the range every now and again, but then didn't really take it too serious until COVID, right? So COVID came around and I turned on television because I live in Lansing. I live in Lansing, Michigan.
Okay.
So I turn on television, I see these fools outside the Capitol with all these guns and shit. And I'm like, oh, I should probably do something. Right? All of them, they out here, camo down, talking about freedom. Ain't nobody took nothing from them motherfuckers yet, but they talking about their freedom. So I said, okay. So I went and got me some guns and then saw it was a bullet shortage, during that time.
Yeah.
So, YouTube, I love YouTube. I fuck with YouTube. That's my favorite I don't even know if it's a social media platform so much as it's just a video Wikipedia.
Yeah,
So
that's a good way to put it. Yeah.
I go on there and I learn how to make my own practice rounds.
Mm. Now,
So
now
I got it.
is there a difference? Like you said, practice rounds. Is that
Oh
because
yeah,
you could only use it for that? I would imagine you could still hurt somebody with it, right?
yeah. I mean, well, the difference between practice rounds and self-defense rounds is like practice rounds are typically full metal jackets.
Okay.
So they're just for training purposes. So they go through the target and they're just designed to keep going straight. So that's
Okay.
why you want to shoot at a range or like out somewhere where it's a lot of property or you got like a backstop, you
Okay.
know. Um, Self-defense rounds, hollow points, they're designed
Oh.
to kill.
Okay.
So they go in and it's just like you coach football. You know
Yeah.
how everybody break, they clap and they break the huddle.
Yeah.
That's what the bullet does.
What a
So it
good
goes in
analogy. Yeah.
and it's like break, and all the motherfuckers go everywhere, and so
Okay.
it's
All
taking
right.
chunks out and all that. So you don't want to practice, and also those are expensive. You don't want to practice with those.
Yeah.
So that's the difference.
Okay. All right. So you uh have you always felt like, because I know, because and just by following you, like one of my favorite things, and I really didn't think about it until like I think you had posted it a while ago, where you're like, um and really the only legislation that happened years ago, I think it was in California, when you could like have all these weapons, and then black people
Hmm.
started getting weapons. Like, wait a minute, not everybody.
Interesting.
Yeah,
Ain't that
yeah,
nothing?
yeah. So I think I saw that on stuff that you would post, and like, nothing nothing will make people change quicker than when other people have things that you think you're the only ones that should have.
It ain't no fun when the rabbit got the gun.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah.
All right, you
So
know.
this is something, like you said, it kind of stemmed from an incident. So even let's say before that incident, did you always feel like, is it because you grew up in Michigan where you're like, I feel like I should have something on me to protect myself?
Well, no, I mean, it just I got to the point where like Pete, don't nobody fight, don't nobody scrap no more these
Yeah,
days. Ain't
yeah.
nobody out here throwing hands like it used to be. I sound like an old man, like back in my day. You put your hands up, boy. You put your hands up and you fight, boy. You live to see another day. No, I'm just bullshitting. Don't nobody do that no more.
Yeah,
Nobody, it's a lot of grown men that ain't never even been in a fist fight.
yeah.
So ain't nobody doing that. And
Well, I'm
as
one of
big
them.
as I am,
I've never fought anybody, but my dad says it's because of my size. People aren't gonna
people
just
to
come
leave
up
you
to me.
alone. Well,
Yeah,
see,
but he says eventually there's gonna be a crazy guy who doesn't care how big you are, and
yeah,
you got to be ready.
yeah, shit, I fight dirty too. I kick motherfucking nuts. I don't care.
I,
I'm
you know
big as
what?
hell, and it's funny. They look at me. One time I hit this guy, kicked this guy in his balls, and he looked at me like it was against the rules. Like, nigga,
Yeah,
you fuck with me.
yeah. No, if somebody were ever, I'm gonna do whatever I have to.
Hmm.
I'm gonna do like my dad did against me when I got too big for him. He would cheat all the time. So
Yeah,
that's
right.
what I'm trying to do.
Bite a motherfucker. I don't give a
Yeah,
shit. That's why. See, that's why you don't bother people. Because if you bother me, anything I do to you is fair. Because you came over here fucking with me.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
So no, I mean, I grew up in a crazy neighborhood, you know, violence and all that type of shit. But like, I didn't really get back into it until I started doing comedy, and then like I realized, like, man, I'm like 6'6", 200, and at that time I was like 265, 270 pounds. So like,
yeah,
and most people will see me and leave me the fuck alone.
yeah.
So if you got somebody fucking with me, and chances are it's a trick to it. Either it's more than one of them or they got a gun. So I'm like, I should probably get one too.
Hmm. So growing up, did you have siblings, or do
Yeah,
you have
I
siblings?
got an older brother. Yeah, one older brother. He's
Okay.
like 6 or 7 years older than me.
Okay. So because I grew up in Toledo.
Hmm.
And I mean we lived in an okay neighborhood. I mean, and wherever
Hmm.
you go, if you go looking for something that you want, you're
Yeah,
gonna find it,
yeah,
right?
you'll find it right.
And I had an older brother who would look for everything. So
He was
I was
always in trouble,
exposed.
huh?
Oh yeah, I was exposed to a lot of things as a kid. All the way up probably
Hmm.
till I was in eighth grade. He was into drugs and alcohol, and I remember one day he came home all bloody because he got beat up.
Hmm.
He always talked about guns, and the local high school I would ride my bike to go to my friend's house. We would always find bullets and stuff in the parking lot.
Hmm.
So like but I'm always interested because, and I don't even know why, but I just never got into any of that stuff. And maybe it's
Hmm.
because like I saw my brother like, oh, subconscious like, well, I don't want to like get beat up, and I don't want to have a gun held in my head, and I don't
Right,
want to do all that
right.
stuff. So how do you like? How do you think you just like went through, or maybe you did have a few years where you did get into that, and you're like, nah, I'm good, I'm out. Like, how did you get to where you're at now?
Oh man, a lot of luck, man.
Yeah.
A lot of luck. It was, I had a few times when things could have went bad.
Mm-hmm.
Had the wrong thing happen, or I made the wrong choice, things could have got a lot worse. Could have ended up a lot worse. But the older I got, the more I just kind of like learn how to quit while I'm ahead.
Okay.
Like,
Yeah.
okay, this is, or I got really good at, for whatever reason, I got really good at leaving right before trouble went down. Like
So
I
that
could
is
see,
that is the
like
luck
yeah,
part. Yeah.
yeah, like I could look and it just because I watch people. It's funny because I'm observant when it comes to danger and shit, but I'm not observant to much anything else. So like I can look at people, see how they look at each other, or, people's body language. I'm like, I probably it's about time to
Yeah.
get the fuck on.
Yeah.
So I never, you know, disregarded those instincts. Like whenever I felt like that, I would trust my instincts and I would probably go ahead and go somewhere. And then more often than not, it seemed like the shit went down not too long after I left. So
Yeah. Maybe people start learning, hey, when Robert leaves, that's when we should leave.
yeah, now part of it was because I was calling the police on people,
Yeah.
but no, nah, I'm fucking around. I'm fucking around. No,
Oh, that's
like
funny.
yeah, man, they doing such and such over here.
That would go the other way. Like, hey, every time Robert leaves, something bad, the cops come.
Right?
What's
Ain't
up?
that something? Every time that motherfucker leave, here comes the police. That's interesting. No,
Oh man.
it would be something, just
Yeah.
one of those things, man.
Sure.
Just
Sure.
yeah.
Yeah. Like I said, I don't know what it was. I mean, I did your regular high school stuff,
Hmm.
like kids do, but
Right.
I don't know. I think it had to do with that. And my mom was an alcoholic. Well, I guess
Okay.
technically,
That'll stop you from
yeah, technically, um, it's so weird to me. And I even asked her that too. I go, Mom, doesn't it feel weird that you have to still call yourself an alcoholic? She goes, We are. We're just better now. Like we're not. We don't drink anymore. But
What's the thing? Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So it's
Hmm.
but that was part of it too. Like my parents party when I was a kid. I was either there, and as a kid. I look at it now like okay, well, it was still just beer, but that's just what I saw. I don't know if anything else just happened.
Right.
I
Right.
can only say
Right.
what I saw. But I do remember one time specifically. I was probably 7 or 8, maybe a little bit older. I think Miller Lite at the time had under the bottle caps of the glass bottles. They had NFL football logos,
Hmm.
and I was the best 9-year-old bartender because I wanted to collect all these
All of them.
caps.
Yeah.
So I was just popping all of them and like walking around handing beers to all these adults, like, give
That's
me these
funny.
caps, give me these caps.
Right. You
But
out here aiding and abusing.
yeah, man. But yeah, it's good to like. I think at some point, like it's good to see some of that stuff to know what's out there. Like there's other things out
Yeah.
there, right? So
Hmm.
I coach in Perrysburg, and I try to tell these kids as much as I can, like the world that you live in Perrysburg is so different compared
Right.
to what's out there when you go to college. Even the people you meet, there isn't a lot of diversity in Perrysburg now. It's gotten a lot
Hmm.
better since I was in school 20 years ago here, but even that, even interacting with black people or Hispanic people or whoever, like that is a big deal too to me. And I try to like instill
Yeah.
in these guys, like, hey, when you get out there, it's a lot different, man. So I think even
Yeah.
seeing these bad things.
I think the funny thing is like the world, this may sound kind of simplistic, but the world is such a big place. Wherever you grow up, the rest of the world is different.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, you grow up in the middle of New York City or you grow up in a major city and you see all this other stuff, just know that someplace, somewhere on the planet, the exact opposite of what's going on right now is happening.
Yeah.
So, like everywhere is different. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Let's get back. I do want to get back to when we first started with guns. Where are you at with that now? Like, how many do you have? Because I know, I think at some point I saw that you had 2 or 3, and I don't know if that's still where you're at, or if you're like still,
Yeah, nah.
I mean, you don't have to. You also
Got
don't
a
have to
few
tell
more.
me if you
I
don't
got a
want to.
few
But
more. Let's
all
just
right,
let's just say a few more.
okay,
Got a
all
few
right.
more things.
Do you make sure, just like with anything, do you make sure to take time to, hey, I'm going to go to the range this week and practice with this
Oh
gun or that
yeah,
gun, right?
yeah. I have a membership. I got a
Oh,
membership at the range where I'm
yeah.
at. It's like a monthly fee, and I get unlimited range time.
Oh,
So,
nice.
um, yeah, they didn't took a loss on that one.
You're
So,
just, I mean, it's just like,
and
I would
there was a
imagine it's,
time when I was going 3 and 4 times a week,
oh, really?
but yeah, I try to go. I've been off for a few weeks. Uh, I went. Well, actually, last week I went, but before that, I had been off like maybe like 4 or 5 weeks.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, I go like I'll buy a gun. I'm not one of these guys that's into collecting, like
Hmm.
just to have.
Yeah.
So like each one I have, it has a specific purpose.
Okay.
So like I have one with an optic on it. I have one that I carry. That's my everyday carry gun, and I shoot in shooting competitions. So I have a
Oh,
competition gun, and I have a couple shotguns and whatnot. So
okay.
like each thing I have is like there's a reason for it. If I don't have a reason to have it, then I'm not gonna buy it. So
Hmm. Now, how hard was it for you to buy a gun?
easy,
Yeah.
easy. I mean,
Yeah.
it wasn't too difficult. Um, I think I got so the process for it is basically you go to the gun store and you say, all right, I want to purchase this gun. So if it's a handgun, so you purchase a gun and they'll take your information and they do a federal like background check.
Hmm.
And it's completely you never know how long it's going to take, so it could take 5 minutes. They could hold it and make you come back a couple of days later, um but it shouldn't take no more than like 2 or 3 days.
Okay.
And if they don't get a rejection, then you're allowed to proceed. Basically, that's how it goes. So for me, normally don't take any more than like a half hour or 20 minutes or something for them to run my background. So after that, I mean, it's yours. And they give you like a registration. And you got to turn the registration into the county's office, uh, the county sheriff, and then that's pretty much it.
Do they let you buy more than one gun at a time?
Oh yeah,
Do they?
you can
Okay.
buy. Yep, pretty much.
All right.
The only thing you can't walk in and leave with the same day is there are a few guns that are like you need like a stamp for, so you gotta like submit to the ATF that you want to get this gun, and
Hmm.
then you wait because it might have something on like a silencer, or it's like a short barrel rifle or something like that. So you have to wait. Basically, if you want a Tommy gun, you gotta like submit
Hmm.
like this application, and then it comes back and then you can get it. So
All right. I thought, because when Trump was president and things were going crazy, and I would talk to my wife, and I'm like, I was like, I feel like we should have one, but we also have two little
hmm
kids in my house.
hmm
And obviously, well, if we were to have one, then we got to put it in this safe and this and that. Like, we would do
yeah
everything we're supposed to do,
hmm
right? But it's just,
hmm
it's so, because it's just, I don't know. I was so nervous about
right.
it. But I felt like that's what I felt, and people are like, it's nothing normal, this or that. I go, for you, but
hmm
you can't tell me how to feel about certain situations. Like, this is just how I
right.
feel, and I can't help it. But it was just it was like a nervous time, and that's how nervous I got, where I'm like,
hmm
man, I feel like we should have something here to protect ourselves. Um,
Yeah. I mean, just you know, in theory, like the police are a reactionary force. If you feel like you want to call
yeah,
them, even if you would call the police, you have to. They can't do anything until you call them.
yeah,
So in the meantime, between then and now, like you're on your own. So I mean, that's just kind of how it's set up. There is
yeah.
nobody to protect you but you, really. So,
Speaking of that, I've probably talked about on here before, but I listen to podcasts all the time, and there's just one
mhm,
podcast where they talked about police and how it's so crazy to me how legally they do not have to protect anybody. Like
Exactly.
and it's crazy to me. Like, and at first, when I first heard the episode, I'm like, what are they talking about? It has to be some crazy special thing or this or that. I'm like, no cop
Mm-mm.
has to do anything. And they've gone to the Supreme Court basically saying, like, nope, yeah, he or she did not have to help you in that situation, even though your loved one passed away. I'm
Mhm.
like, man, well, that's crazy to me. Like everyone, because on their cars it says to protect and serve, when in fact they do not have to.
Yeah, they should put a little asterisk on that motherfucker, like to protect us
Yeah,
when we feel like it.
yeah. It was in the two stories they talked about. They were pretty insane stories to the point where it looked like, well, wow, they have to do something. Nope, you're good.
Well, like here's the thing. I I think that's bullshit, but if you carry it out to its logical conclusion,
Mhm.
then I can see why they are under no duty to protect. Because think about it like this. That would basically be them mandating somebody to sacrifice their life for another person.
Yes.
So, under the right circumstances, I can see why they might not like if it's a person being held hostage and it's like 10 killers with AR-15s in there, and you're the only cop and you got a six shooter. They
Yeah.
say like they have a duty to go in. They have a duty to get killed,
Hmm.
basically.
Yeah.
Those bad eyes. That's not what we talking about. We talking about lazy ass cops who don't want to do their motherfucking job. But
Hmm.
I get it. Like, when you carry it all the way to its logical conclusion, I
Yeah.
get that part. Yeah.
And that's a good point. Yeah. There is in the podcast episode, they did spell out exactly how you get into a unwritten contract with a cop to say, yes, come help me. But it was 4 steps. And one of the steps was like, you both have to know basically what the other one is thinking almost.
Mhm.
And so like the
You
way to
can't.
like
Yeah.
you get through all these things, like, man, that's almost impossible to do all that stuff.
Mhm.
But that is a good point. You're basically, like you said, basically forcing somebody to potentially lose their
Sacrifice
life.
their life. I mean,
Yeah. Yeah.
people, you can work any job in the world. I don't think any job should mandate that you sacrifice your life, even firefighters. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
I get it, but like at the same time, it's like people take those jobs knowing the risk, right?
Hmm.
So you assume everybody who signs up to do that job has made their peace with the fact that they might not make it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because
Hmm.
I don't think you can really do something that dangerous without just being at peace with the shit maybe not working out one day.
Yeah.
So, because you be all hesitant and scared and shit. So, of course, it's not going to work. You just got to say, I guess this is what it is.
Hmm. Yeah. Well, I don't know. I for like a hot second, I thought, you know what, I could be a firefighter or a police officer, and then I'm like, no, I'm good. I'm glad I didn't do that.
I wanted to be a police officer on January 6th. Oh boy, that's the only time I ever wanted to join the police. I would have been, but shit, I'd have did that shit for free.
They did, some of
Yeah, yes, yeah. It was police down there off duty,
them.
out there rioting and pillaging and shit.
That was crazy. We've I always see posts on Facebook on how people our age have lived through a lot of crazy things. And
Yeah,
we're just like, all right, well, we just gotta then it's the house on fire meme. We're like, everything is fine, let's go.
right. But how's we living through this shit? But it's still our fault.
Yeah.
Like all these people that did all this wild shit, and we sitting here watching, like, man, that's crazy. But then you read some article by some old motherfucker, and they like, you millennials ruined such. No, shut the fuck up.
there is
Wasn't
there
us. We
is
didn't.
yeah,
We just
this
now got old enough to be president,
I know.
motherfucker. Like,
There
we
is,
know we ain't running no corporations,
yeah,
so
for
I don't know
sure.
what the fuck they talking about.
This TikTok lane that I recently got into is like how out of touch boomers are with people and their jobs. Like
Hmm.
the one I heard this morning was like this woman was talking to the CEO or whatever of this company. Like, well, people will just come to work here. Well, what are we gonna offer them? How much money, packages, that kind of stuff? Well, they're just gonna work here because we're the best company. Like, no, that doesn't work. Like, you can't. Well, we'll give them this title and they'll go for these awards and this kind of stuff. Like, they can't they
Mm-mm.
can't feed their family on titles and awards. That's not gonna. They're not
Right.
gonna send their kids to college on that. You need to pay people, and it's everywhere. That's just. I mean, people are
Hmm.
like, people are like, oh, people don't want no jobs. People don't want any jobs, or they don't want to work. Like, well, because you're paying them $10 an
Yeah.
hour.
Right. They don't want to work for you,
Yeah,
motherfucker. That's what that
yeah.
is.
It is insane how eventually, right? Eventually, that pendulum has to swing, and there's reports of like how where boomers are at compared to people, and how that generation is dying off just because they're getting older.
Hmm.
Eventually it's got to swing, and you would think it would happen. You just want it to happen like right now, and I
Right.
and I guess it is with little things that are happening, but still, man, it's just
It's taking too long. Shit.
yeah,
That's the
yeah.
thing, man. We got to do something because we're not guaranteed to make it. Do you see how this basically winter is over?
It snowed for the
You
first
know what I
time. It's
mean? Like,
snowing right now today for the
this has
first time.
been, yeah, this has been some weird shit. This has been a weird winter. Like, this is the first one in a long time where I look around, I'm like, man, this shit ain't normal. Like,
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
this, I don't even argue with people who deny climate change.
Yeah.
I don't even argue with them. When I find out, I tell them thank you. That way I know I don't have to talk to them motherfuckers no more. I'm not arguing with you
Yeah,
because I
that
look outside, I see what the fuck is going on.
yeah. It's for someone who I work for a park system, and these past few winters, I've been a supervisor, so I don't like right now it's snowing. I got my guys in there cleaning up. It's not too bad, but in the years
Hmm.
past, I was that person, right? So now I'm the one sitting at home arranging things. Tomorrow I'll go in early to help remove snow because it's my regular work day. But I'm like, when I was them, I wanted as much overtime as I could get. Yes, snow, please
Hmm.
snow, so I get all this overtime.
Hmm.
And now it's like it's doesn't not do anything. My wife and I just went to Florida 2 weeks ago, and I think one of the days it was the same temperature as it was here in Toledo. So like
Right. Right. The shit is
like
just random now.
yeah, yeah. And it's yeah, you're right though. Like the climate change to me is it just seems like an easy one to be like, yep, that's happening.
Hmm.
But there's a lot of
We
those.
can't people can't even argue. People can't even agree on that. Motherfuckers argue about everything.
Yeah, yeah. How did you feel? Speaking of arguing, how did you feel? I was loving life, and it was just made me laugh when the House of Representatives couldn't pick a majority leader.
Oh man, that shit was ridiculous.
Oh, and now
That shit was
everybody
it.
loses. Everybody loses
Hmm.
because he caved into the crazy super wing or super crazy
Hmm.
wing of the GOP.
And I stopped here. I've become so like politics in America is so motherfucking ridiculous that I don't even care anymore. Almost, it's just like it's gonna be what it's gonna be. I vote, but I don't get. I used to be really involved in that shit, like
Really?
going volunteering and all
Oh
that.
wow, really? Okay.
Nah, fuck all that. I ain't doing that no more.
Now
Um,
is it you don't do it anymore because you saw like in your mind nothing like changed, or because you were there, you're like, man, I see some really shady stuff.
no, well, shit. It's been a little bit of everything. Like
Yeah.
it's so the stress that it causes is so disproportionate to the change that you can
Mm,
affect as a person, like
mm-hmm.
as an individual person. Like depending on your political leaning, like I'm a liberal. I'm pretty besides guns and a few other things, I'm pretty far to the left, right?
Yeah.
And
Yep.
so like I see all these things happening and the change is so slow and it's so frustrated. It's so hard to get anything done, right?
Yeah.
So I tend to focus more on like local and like state politics. I think
Okay.
that's those are easier ways to kind of get the ball rolling, get things moving. So the federal system, like other than voting, I don't really do too much. That Kevin McCarthy shit was funny though, because I don't
Yeah.
like him because he ain't shit.
Yeah.
And it was I like it when people I don't like suffer. So it was good to watch him have to grovel. Like, why would you? I don't want nothing that bad to get embarrassed like he did to get it. Like, what? Are you even in charge now? Like, yeah, okay, you
Yes.
the speaker, but
Yes.
everybody just saw you just basically get embarrassed and humiliated for days. Now, all of a sudden, because you got a gavel, motherfuckers supposed to respect you. Like,
Yeah.
That ain't how respect work.
No, no, and that's and he had the ability. He's the one who, or he, or I don't know who exactly, but the Republicans had the ability, or maybe he did, to call the vote, or to like basically say like, hey, do we have enough votes here? Like, what's going on? And to just like, and I love that the Democrats are like, no, we got to keep doing this, keep doing this. At one time, the GOP was like, no, we're shutting down to the next day, but they were liking too, like just vote after
Yeah.
vote after vote not happening,
And
man.
here's the thing. Here's the thing that why it's so fucking ridiculous, right? So if he was interested in being speaker, what he could have done was he could have formed a coalition with people that are in the middle on both parties,
Yeah,
right? Handed them, they could have come to some sort of agreement where we can alternate bringing bills to the House and we vote on it. He didn't need to have to get, he didn't, he set it up where he had to get all Republicans. If he wanted to be in charge and actually have respect and actually show that he was serious about governing, he could have made a deal with the Democrats where they share power, but Republicans still get the final say. They
yeah.
would have been open to that. But he had to stick to the party line, and so he
Mhm.
chose to allow himself to be humiliated.
And now they want to allow smoking in Congress again, so
It's
that's
fucking
good.
stupid. Yeah, just the dumb. Just they spend their time on the dumbest shit.
I
It's like
know.
that
Yeah.
and like bathroom bills and like less whoever they don't like. They spend their time passing bills to harm the people they don't like instead of
Yeah.
actually doing something.
Yeah. Yeah. That's um I want to shift gears here because it's interesting to me that you do stand-up comedy.
Mhm.
You said you've been doing it about 10 years now. And are you still a lawyer too?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. So those like a lot of times when you meet people in comedy, it's like, oh, I'm trying to be a comedian, but I work at a gas station, or I'm trying
Oh,
to
you
be a
breaking up? I can't
comedian.
hear
Oh, oh, there we go. Is that
you.
better? We good?
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. So like you're either a stand-up
Hmm.
comedian and I work at a gas station to pay the bills, or I work at this pizza place, or possibly, in these companies doing these other things, but like for you to
Hmm.
do stand-up comedy and to be a lawyer, like how did those two come together? Like how did you decide like, hey, I'm gonna be a lawyer and also do this thing?
Well, I was a lawyer first.
Okay.
So, yeah, I got my law license in 2007. So
Where'd you
I
go
was
to
a
where'd you go
lawyer,
to school at?
Northern Illinois University.
Okay.
And yeah, I graduated from there and got my law license. And then I found comedy after that. So, I've never been one, I do it because I like doing it. I never really had much, um, I never really thought of it as, oh, I'm going to do this full time,
Mm-hmm.
because I do it for a different reason. Like I'm not trying to what I'm saying is I ain't gonna make it, motherfucker.
Yeah.
Like that's fine.
So
Just
so
come
so
out
that
there.
yeah, that could have been
Yeah,
the first question too, like the nerding out thing. That's what it sounds like. Like, hey, I do this to like because it's fun and to get away and to
yeah.
you're right.
Hmm.
Okay, yeah.
Hmm.
I'm
Yeah, I
not
mean, I
gonna
guess
make it.
technically we could have, yeah, sure, we could have talked about comedy if you wanted, because it's not my day job. It's not,
Yeah,
I mean, it's not like my primary job. I don't do it for those reasons. I mean,
yeah,
I have albums and stuff and I've, done stuff, but it's never been like me trying to segue into doing comedy full time.
yeah.
I don't want to do it full time. I want to do it well.
Sure. Was
There's
there
plenty of people who doing it full time that don't do it well.
mm,
So,
was there ever a point where was there any time where you're like, I think I want to do this like full go here, and it just didn't work or didn't like
mm,
fit in?
no, because every time I work up to that, I thought about working up to that point. Some shit would happen, and I'd be like, nah.
Uh,
This is one of those things where I try to trust my instincts more. And it's like when you do art, if you want to call comedy art, whenever
sure.
you do something like that as your source of income, it'll force you to maybe make compromises that you wouldn't otherwise make.
Mm-hmm.
because money's involved.
Mm-hmm.
And so the type of shit I say on stage, um, you got to figure out how to have different sources of income.
Yeah.
So, because, hey, sometimes people don't like the type of shit you say.
Sure. Are you ever
Yeah.
worried? Are you ever worried that that will happen with your day job? Like, hey, something you say or that do will affect what you do.
Nah, because I try to keep them relatively separate. Like, I don't have too many jokes about what I do for a living or like that type of thing. Most of my jokes are, other topics.
Sure.
And when I'm at work, you wouldn't even know I'm a comic because I'm pretty straight laced. Like I don't really, you know, act up or nothing like that. I'm
Yeah.
just a regular person. So
That happens to me too. Like, I mean, when people find out that I used to do it, it's been probably 5 years now, and they look at me like, "Really?" I'm like,
hmm
"Yeah, I don't." I guess that's
right,
a good thing. Like
right.
you want to
What
be like
I'm supposed
serious
to
at
have
your
a
job.
clown nose,
Yeah,
motherfucker? Is that it? I'm supposed to have a clown
yeah,
nose, some fucking flower that's a water gun? Is that what you think?
yeah. But it's I understand because I was the same way. Like I have a job, I had kids, like, but it was
hmm
just fun. It was so much fun,
Right.
and then to meet people and to go to these this hookah bar at 11 o'clock at night or
hmm
whatever. Like all these
It's
fun.
a
It's
good way
just
to
fun.
travel too.
Yeah,
I've been a lot of places I wouldn't otherwise have gone if it
yeah.
wasn't for stand up. Yeah.
Do you remember the first time you got paid, even if it was like $20 or whatever?
Yeah, that was man. I did this show at Joey's in Livonia. This
Mm,
was I started 2012. This had to have been 2013, something like that.
yeah.
Maybe let me think. I started July. No, I think it was actually late 2012.
Okay.
Yeah, I did this show. I made $10
Yeah.
doing I did 5 minutes and made $10. I was like, what?
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, that was dope.
Yeah. I
Uh
yeah. Keith Bergman took me to a show one time. I was the opener and the MC, and I think that was like um 15 or $25. But I didn't have
mhm.
to drive either, so I didn't have to pay any gas. So
Right, that was
that was
all
cool.
right to the good,
Yeah,
right.
yeah. And then the longest that I did was 20 minutes and I got $100 for that. I'm like, man, this is the best. And it was like,
Hell
if
yeah.
I didn't care, I don't think it would have mattered. I mean, it did. The show did go well. Everyone did really
Mhm.
well, but I don't even think it mattered if it did. Like, I was so excited.
Yeah, shit. That's good money. Just to
Yeah,
talk
man.
because it ain't like I gotta do anything. Like like I don't have like it's not like I have to build something or like do like
Yeah.
real work. Like I just go talk crazy for a little bit and then they give me money
Yeah.
afterwards.
That's why I'm trying to like, that's even less work than this podcast. Like, I'm trying to get paid for this
Fuck yeah,
podcast
shit. This is
eventually.
you
And we're
gotta
just,
edit, you gotta do all this other stuff and
yeah,
all this, worry about different
yeah.
types of shit. And no, man, I just pull up, just insult people and shit and holler at them.
Sometimes you get free food too.
Mm-hmm.
What is what is one of your favorite places to go? And I think I because I know what it seems like to me is like that Max Comedy Monday is like
Yeah,
I never did
yeah.
that show, but I know just based on like how much you guys promote it and how it just seems like a really cool spot place that you guys really like. And when it stopped doing it, like when you guys like when it just didn't happen anymore, like it seemed like a really devastating thing to the comedy community.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. I mean, it was a lot of fun. The first, because we went away from it basically before COVID. Then we thought it was done
Yeah.
because we thought the bar was done. And then the owner of the bar called us back and asked us if we wanted to do it again. So, um, it's just one of those things that kind of started from out of nothing. Like, it's a Monday night, so most bars don't have much going on Monday. So
Mm-hmm.
when we started the show, it was just one of those things where it's like do whatever you want because we not paying it. We don't really care. Like nobody's in here, so anything that we bring in is was a plus.
Yeah.
So when you're able to like build something with the freedom to do it however you want, it allows you to really create. what it is that you want to create.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's nobody on the outside kind of like trying to influence anything because nobody cares. And so we started this thing, and then we started getting regular people coming to the show to watch, and that's the key.
Mm-hmm.
Whenever you have, because comics will go wherever there's a crowd. So whenever you have a crowd built in, and people know that there's going to be a crowd, then people will want to come do the show. And because it's a weekly thing, you have to keep writing. Since I'm there every Monday, I can't continue to come back with the same jokes.
Yeah.
So I tend to work on a joke 3 times. I work on the joke for maybe for the longest for a month, and that's it. I gotta have something new, because
Yeah.
I know the same people will be there. So it forces you to keep writing and keep creating and stuff. So that's kind of the biggest. I think that was the biggest thing. And then another thing that made it really good is that it's a performance venue.
Mm.
So even though it looked like a fucking fallout shelter, they had like pretty good recording equipment. Like I recorded my 2 albums there. My
Mm.
buddy Pat recorded his album there. So, and it was, really the recordings came out really well. So it just was the right amount of circumstances, like the right things kind of came together all at once to make it pretty cool. So
Yeah. Are the I know for me, even when I went to an open mic and they had like a stage with some lights, like it just makes you feel more important, or it makes you feel bigger than it is, and you're just there for five
right,
minutes, 3 minutes, whatever. But it
right.
feels bigger, and I think it helps performers.
Yeah, I think it's close to the end product. Like whenever you start, I would suggest people when they start doing comedy, go to the comedy club on the weekend
Mm-hmm.
because that's what it looks like. That's the finished product.
Mm-hmm.
So like going to a place where they have the stage and the microphone and the lights is like that's the finished product. That's kind of where you want to end up. So it kind of helps you to get ready for being in that type of situation.
Yeah. That was my very first night. Was the Toledo Funny Bone used to do open mics, so I I
Okay,
had one. I was at the Toledo Funny Bone, and in
nice.
front of whatever 12 people or whatever on a
Hmm.
Wednesday night. But again, like if you can feel that one time, like it makes you want to keep doing it, or it makes you want to
Yeah,
go, or
the people
especially when
who
that
do it,
first show.
man. I think nobody does comedy for the first time and they're like, I don't know. Like either you like it or you like, what the fuck?
Yeah, yeah.
Why did I do that? you know,
Or maybe even then they're like, "Why did I do that?" You're like,
I'm gonna
but
do it again.
yeah,
Yeah, it's weird. It's weirdo shit. Like it's a
yeah,
weird thing to do.
yeah. Are the same people who started Max? Are they still? Are you guys all still running it? Because I know for you it was
Some
Robin
of
and
the
Pat,
same people.
and you and
Yeah,
Pat, but
yeah. So it's me and Pat. We're the holdovers from the original five. The other, well, one guy, two of them stopped doing comedy. Another guy, he's no longer a regular, but he's just now gotten back into it.
uh-huh.
So, but we took on two other hosts,
Okay,
funny, very funny comics. So they help us run it. Megan and Jackie. So it's the four of us: me, Pat, Megan, and Jackie. We run it. So
nice. And I know it's super popular because when you guys put out for submissions, that there's a post that always says we apologize, we got so many submissions. Some of you didn't make
yeah,
it, some
we
of you did, and
well, that's the thing. Like, man, we are fortunate to run a show that people want to do, right? So it's like you never want to get if you got something that's popular, like you never want to get too big for your britches or get the attitude about like you have to quality control. Like you want to run a good show,
yeah,
but you don't want to get to the point where it looks like you like turning your nose up at people because that ain't cool. We
yeah,
all comics. Everybody deserves an opportunity, but like we have a show that people want to do. And so with that, we really do kind of, I don't want to say antagonize, like, like we don't really, I don't want to say like stress over it, but we
Yeah.
do try to put some real thought into the lineups, like making sure that
Okay.
they ain't all just white guys with hoodies
Oh
and
yeah.
flannels. Like,
Yeah.
like everybody who submits, we want to consider them and try to make the best lineup we can make. So yeah, we're fortunate from that. That's a good problem to have. More
Sure.
people wanting to do your show than spots you have. That ensures for a quality show, hopefully.
That, and it's not like there's 6 spots. You get, it's like what, 12 people?
Yeah, well, it's funny because the way we do it is like there's 12 people on the lineup, but then us four, we're there every week.
Okay.
And so then that really means there's 8 people, 8 spots
Okay.
every week. So that's like 32, anywhere from 32 to 40 spots if we have 5 Mondays in a month.
Okay.
So like I think that was actually one of the first um things that we did that kind of helped the show was to make people you reduce the number of spots. So if you
Hmm.
have 12 people on the lineup, there was a time when people would like no show, like no call, no show, like they would be on the lineup and they just wouldn't show up. So it was like, okay, to get some sort of consistency, we're going to make sure that these people, you can every Monday you can come and see at least these people.
Yeah.
So people will show up. That's how you get regulars because you become predictable. Like they know every week you're going to see these certain people. And then that also reduces the number of spots that you need to fill
Yeah.
so that, that handles some of your problems. So now instead of us having 48 spots, when it was the 5 of us, now it's 28 spots.
Yeah.
So, that helped.
Do Was it always weekly, or did you guys work up that?
Since I've done it, it's been weekly. Yeah, because
Okay.
technically it started before I started. It started in 2012, but it was a couple months before I started doing comedy. So the
Okay.
first time I ever did Max was Labor Day of 2012. So it was the first Monday of September 2012.
Yeah.
It had started a few months before that, but it was again one of those situations where I showed up and then I think I wasn't there the next week, but then after that I was there every week because nobody was showing up and I just started.
Um.
So, I'm like, I want to do every fucking show I could
Yeah.
possibly do.
Yeah.
So I was very fortunate to come along at a time when they needed weekly performers.
Mm. I know, because that's, to me it seems like, I mean, it is a lot of work, but like I know for this podcast and my other podcast I do with my friends, it's a dad podcast. So we started like, hey, we're gonna do it once a month and just do
Mhm.
it, because it's fun. And they're like, hey, can you guys do it twice a month? And then we upped it, and
Right.
now we're weekly, but we kind of
Yeah.
worked up to it. So it seems like
Mhm.
it'd be difficult to like, hey, we're just jumping into this. We're doing it weekly. We got to get all these people do this, that. But I would imagine that's
Mhm.
when you figure out like, okay, well, like you said, people are dropping out, or we need 4 of us or 5 of us at the time, like to be here regulars, like just to get all these things. But it's
Yeah.
trial by fire, I guess, in that case.
And because, if you have people like the three of y'all got responsibilities. You know what I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying? Like y'all got responsibilities outside of podcast situation, right? So if you have more than one person helping run a thing, then when somebody can't make it or you need somebody else to handle a certain responsibility, you got people to step in.
Yeah.
So the thing about comedy that's interesting is like, and this is one of the things that kind of sucks about comedy is like you start doing comedy with your friends, but then the better you get, the less you see your friends
Mm,
because they're out doing shows. Like especially if y'all come up together, y'all both might be featuring for different comics, and then you might start headlining different shows. So it's like you don't see each other as much because everybody is busy doing their own thing.
yeah.
Um, so with that, it was good to have a show where you had multiple people running it because if something came up where somebody had to be someplace else, then we had it covered. You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Yeah. um so are you like happy with the level of, I know you said you're like, hey, I ain't gonna make it But like, is there still like certain levels where you a level where you want to get to, or are you just good now? Like, this is my level. I'm gonna stay at this spot. Maybe do albums every once in a while. Still do my day job. Like, is this? Or are you happy with where you're at? Or maybe even your day job. You're like, hey, I want to aspire to do these other things.
Yeah, I think I've had like a lot of things kind of like I lost my parents in I lost my mom in 2018, lost my dad in 2021.
Mm,
And so when you go through stuff like that, it makes you kind of more thankful for what you have left.
yeah.
So it's like I appreciate where I am now. And so like as far as levels and like my day-to-day life, I'm good, but I still have specific things I want to accomplish.
Hmm.
So it's like I don't need to get to like another like quote unquote level.
Sure.
I'm more content with like where I am, but then there are like actual things I want to do. Like I've done 2 albums. My rule is for albums, I will only put out an album if I know that it's going to be better than my last one. So the ones that I put out are good. Like I got on radio on satellite radio with my second album.
Oh,
So like, it's good. Like I'm happy with both of those.
yeah.
But I keep working on material and I'm the type where I just kind of dump everything after I've done it. So once I record it, I kind of just it's recorded, it's out of the way, it's out
Yeah.
of my head. So I there's an empty space there for new jokes and stuff.
Hmm.
So that's what I kind of been working on that. As far as shows, like there are different places I definitely want to go visit and do comedy, and like I've been fortunate enough to do a lot of shows with comics and stuff, and I can go visit
Yeah.
and do those things. But I don't know.
And
Does that answer your question?
yeah, yeah, no, because
Okay.
it's perfect because you are, like you said, you're satisfied, um, or you learn to be satisfied more, or just be
Mm-hmm.
happy with what you want because since your parents passed away, um, and I think that's important too. Like I think people, I'm sure there's still, like you said, there's still goals and stuff you want to do, and I think it's good to
Mm-hmm.
have goals and good to like have places like I want to go here or do this or buy these things
Mm-hmm.
or be happy with this or
Mm-hmm.
whatever. But it's also good to realize, hey, let's celebrate what I did do. Let's celebrate
Yeah.
that kind of stuff too. Because if you're just constantly like going forward, then you can never be, then you'll never be happy sometimes. You're just like,
Yeah.
let's celebrate a little bit.
Well, I started to look at like because at least the way I started to look at it was like don't chase your goals so much that it pulls you away from the people you care about.
Mm,
Right. So like, you can go out and sure you can hit the road and be on the grind and do all this other stuff, but like at some point you have to stop and think and look at the people in your life and it's like, okay, these are the people I'm supposed to care about. These are the people that are, important to me.
mm-hmm,
How bad do I want this if it's going to take me away from them?
mm-hmm.
So it's like you gotta manage your expectations. You gotta like learn how to compromise and make like different choices. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah.
So
I know
and it's
that's
tough though. If you're somebody like I like to do stuff like I don't like to half-ass anything. So if I'm gonna do it, I'm gonna try to do it right. So, it's tough to walk that line sometimes, but I think I'm getting better at it.
I think that's why I love doing comedy. It was fun. Like I said, meeting all those people, going different places, just telling jokes, writing. I like
Hmm.
writing. But I think I shifted to kind of your point, like my family that's around here. I kind of shifted more, stressing more to the stuff that I like to do around here, like coaching. And I get to bring my kids along with that kind of stuff.
Right,
The
right.
past 2 football seasons, my son was a water boy for the varsity football team.
Nice.
I'm coaching basketball, girls basketball for the first time this year, and my kids go to those games, and we get to watch basketball and hang out there. So I love to do these things, but now the people I love can also be a part of this and be
Right,
there and do
right,
things. Yeah.
right.
Well, I appreciate you coming on here, man. This is a lot of fun.
Yeah, man.
Again,
Thanks for having me.
yeah, again, it's these. I like the conversations with people I know. like we've met a few times, but then I get to dive in a little bit more. So this was a real cool experience for me. You're on Spotify too, right? How can people? What do people
No,
just
I
search your
pulled
name?
my shit off Spotify.
Oh, did you really?
I don't. Hell yeah, because they don't pay nobody.
Okay, all
Yeah.
right.
My
I didn't know that.
albums is dope, regardless of whether or not people listen to them. So I
Okay.
don't like you can listen to them or not. They still the shit.
Where
But
can
if you
people find
want
it?
to, you can Apple Music,
Okay.
Amazon, and Google Play.
All right.
And I think they might be on YouTube as well. But yeah, I pulled my stuff off of, like I will put my album on Spotify for a little bit, let people hear it, then I take it off. Um, so although somebody told me at one of my shows my shit was still on there, so I got to call them back
Oh,
and be
really?
like, take my shit off of there. They pay people about you get like 1,000 listens, and they want to give you a motherfucking expired McDonald's coupon and shit.
So can people
Spotify
just
ain't shit.
So can people just search your name then?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
Robert
All right.
Jenkins. Yep.
Okay. Awesome. I'll look for those and I can put links in the show notes to them too. Again, Robert, best of luck with all your running shows and any. You're such a good dude, man. I really appreciate you coming on. So,
thanks, man.
So
thanks a lot.
Whatever
you're
striving for, thank you. Whatever you're striving for, man. Best of luck in everything, and thanks again for coming on this podcast.
Thanks a lot. Take care.
Thanks for checking out this episode of the Nerdball podcast. It was a great episode. Robert's an awesome guy. We talked, it's good just to have conversations. Again, like I said in the end of the episode, someone I know on a real base level. So it's nice to get into deep conversations with him. Just all around great episode. Again, thanks to Fort Max CrossFit for allowing me to be in their studio on a regular basis. And as always, thanks to Jake Paluski at realjp.com, Real JP Multimedia. Thanks to the Perrysburg Junior High STEM Lab, Cuttlefish Graphics, and Big Daddy Graphics for helping out the podcast. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next time.